goodness gracious, Scorekeepers. We are back. It's time for another episode of The Score. It's your favorite podcast, all about the arts and culture seen through our queer Black lenses. I am your host, former EDI director at Minnesota Opera, Rocky Jones, as of last week. Um, I'm sure we'll get into that at some point. All we can do is laugh, right? But as always, I am here with my two brilliant co-hosts. First, we have okay, I'm going to think of as many adjectives as I can because I got in trouble last time. Okay. And if you don't like some of the adjectives, just let me know and I'll think of new adjectives, okay? So, okay, so how about magnificent, um, lugubrious? That means what I think it means, right? Talkative, loquacious.
That is absolutely not what that
What
means.
does it mean?
Something that is lugubrious is something that sounds sad.
Oh, okay, that's not you.
Come on, English degree.
I was confusing it with loquacious. Okay. Delightful, lovely.
Yeah, stick with the Cole Porter. That'll take you
Okay.
right to where you need to be.
There you go. The wonderful Dr. Lee Bynum. Hello, Dr. Lee Bynum. How are you doing?
Hello, hello, hello.
How has your week been?
I've had a week full of days
Mm,
and days full of things happening. Some of the things that have happened have been wonderful. Some of the things that have happened have been whack, but I am
mm.
still here, as queer and as Black as ever.
Well, that's beautiful.
Hey, that's what I have to offer
I
today.
mean, that's all we can wish for, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And of course, what would we do? I'm going to give you maybe one or two less adjectives just to make up for last week, if that's okay.
Equity, yeah.
The marvelous, the mystical, and the moisturized Paige Reynolds. Hello, Paige. How are you? How was your week?
Hello. My week has been, it's been a week.
Mm.
It's been, I may have said this last week, but it's the prevailing mood, joy and pain, sunshine and rain. Frankie Beverly really said it best.
Who are you telling?
Yeah.
Because my week has been
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. My week has been interesting. Um,
Mm.
but I'm hoping that perhaps this is sort of the cherry on top of this wildly shitty year I've been having. Um, you know, Losing our access to free trips to New York and a couple of parents, and now here we go. You know, I guess it can only go up from here, right?
Maybe you're at the end of whatever portal that was.
I like that.
I
Yeah.
like that. I like that.
hmm
Let's
This must be
let's
the other side of it. It's got to be.
it has to be because like
Yeah.
I'm at the point now where it's like truly all I can do is laugh. Because
You
it's
know,
just
my
like
my charts for this year said this would be a year of completion, right?
mhm.
And I really think there's something there. Initially, I interpreted that to be about me because it was on my chart, but it's actually proven to be the case kind of for everybody I know. Um, like everybody seems like they're wrapping up a stage of their experience here on Earth and are starting a new one in some way, shape, or form. And maybe that's a very good thing because, as you pointed out, the the immediate past trajectory of kind of everything and everybody has been, I don't know, what's the scientific term for it? Booty, right?
Booty. Except booties are nice. And
Yeah, I don't even want to put that on booties.
it's
Booties
what's
are great.
inside the booty. What comes out of the booty.
Flat booty. Maybe that's the way to
Flat
put the
booty.
last couple
Flat
of,
booty. Which is
yeah.
not me, honey.
Or me.
Don't know that life.
But I mean, I'm sure we will get into it on an episode where it makes a little bit more sense with the topic. And I they didn't make me sign an NDA or anything, so honey, I'm about to sing.
Come on, Aretha.
RESPECT, that's what they did not give to me. Um, but I will just say that, I was talking to our dear friend Pablo, who is recently on the show, and he was saying, I am so sorry, but I am also so happy for you. And it's just like that's just kind of how I feel. Because, like, truth be told, I've been pretty miserable ever since y'all left.
Oh.
And I've been feeling pretty alone, um, and pretty exhausted. And now I don't feel that way anymore. And now I've woken up the past couple of days and I've just felt free and like I can breathe and like I can be myself again. And like I don't have to sort of pull any punches anymore. And I'm excited for that. So get ready for Rocky Unleashed.
Yes.
Here on the pod. You hear that, Loki? But I am so excited because we are getting ready to start a brand new chapter of the score.
Yeah.
Um,
Yay.
we are going to be covering season 11 of RuPaul's Drag Race, and I could not be more excited. Um, RuPaul's Drag Race is one of my favorite, favorite things on earth, not just television show. A, because it's not fiction. But just the opulence, the fun, the reads, the fashion, just the beautiful black queerness of it all. Um, and so I don't know. I mean, Lee, do you want to sort of bring us into this new era with perhaps some
Yeah,
of your thoughts on drag and drag race and what it's meant to you, and maybe a little
sure,
bit of
sure.
history for the folks who perhaps aren't familiar, which
Yeah.
I don't know how
Uh,
that's the case in 2025, but
I clearly feel similarly about Drag Race. It's a To me, it's not just a television show. It really is a celebration of Black queerness in a way that we didn't have before, and we kind of don't have elsewhere. So it's been a huge marker on my life. And, I RuPaul is such an interesting pop culture phenomenon, given that she's been around really for solidly for 35 years plus, right?
mm,
And, I remember RuPaul for the first time in I believe it was Love Shack video by the
hmm
B-52s, just kind of like dancing in the background. And, little queer elementary school version of me seeing her and thinking, I have no idea who this woman is, but it's me. It's me in this video, right? Like there
Oh.
was like such a strong association with it because there was so much clarity of purpose in sort of RuPaul as a drag figure and a very different kind of a drag figure than we were getting before from like, a Flip Wilson or like a Harvey Firestein or a
hmm
Divine, like these queens who were very much situated in this space of comedy. And the comedy was very much about either sending up gender conventions or frankly, in a lot of instances, pure unadulterated misogyny, right?
Hmm.
So RuPaul was doing something very different, which I felt like was both a celebration of femininity, which is a different thing than a celebration of women. And I think it's important that we own that drag has a relationship to womanness, but drag is not necessarily about womanness there. I think there's something much more capacious in this as an art form. And I think RuPaul was someone who, for me, really highlighted that this is very much about fashion. It's very much about movement. It's very much about comedy, right? Being able to play around with gender conventions. But there's also something about asserting a space and a right to have a space for those of us who do not feel like either maleness or femaleness are our natural homes, or feel like both are our natural homes, right? Like I think there's some real space that RuPaul in this style of drag has offered. The other piece that I think becomes really, really critical, and those of us who've watched the show get to see this, the show is also very much a celebration of sort of Black queer ball culture. All of the aspects of Black ball culture that we associate are present in the show, are parts of the competition, are things that you better be able to know and do and understand. And I do mean
Hmm.
know and do and understand, right? Like it's not just about can you construct a garment? It's not just about can you walk a runway? It's also very much about understanding the history, who our foremothers were, who our forefathers were, what kind of space they chose to occupy, and what all of these cultural elements have come together to mean specifically for Black people in this space, right? And obviously, Drag Race is not just a show for Black people, but boy, is it a show that is predicated on the celebration of Black queer culture. And
Hmm.
those of us who love it, I think, really love it for that. If you do not know what a duck walk is, this is probably not a show for you unless you actually do want to know what it is and why it matters, right? And also why it's awesome. Not just why it matters like historically, but like why it is as interesting a piece of choreographic vocabulary as, a time step is, or, as a tendu is. Like this is also like an important part of culture. The last piece I will say about this is, as a person who grew up being raised by a professional athlete masquerading as a psychologist,
Oh.
sports were really very important in our household. And I had a physicality that took to them and a personality that could not care less. But what my body and my person really did take to was a lot of these aspects of ball culture that I mentioned. Duck walking is a thing that I figured out very quickly, that when my knees
Really?
could handle it, like my body loved to do it.
You better
All
walk
kinds
that
of things
fucking
with
duck, Lee.
especially when my knees were not 45. Like there were lots of things that my body used to do now that it rejects. But all of the, everything associated also with walking face was something that really, really appealed to me, that I felt like kind of spoke to things that I cared about and what I understood myself to be good at. And I am also the best lip syncer that either the two of you know, certainly. But anybody else who's listening, you don't know anybody who lip syncs like I lip sync. So the show actually, like making this a critically important part of the competition. You cannot win Drag Race without being an exceptional lip sync artist unless you are Bianca Del Rio. Um, which is it's its own thing, but we're not doing that season, so I'm going to skip over that. So like there's like this very, very strong personal connection I feel to it. When we were kids, we would have lip sync competitions, my three siblings and I. And between 1989 and 1998, I lost 0 times. Um, and I
What happened
still
in
would never
1998?
lose. I went
Right.
to college.
Oh,
And I
okay.
let them continue to perform on their own. But let us speak some truth right now on this podcast. I have never lost a lip sync, and I will never lose one. And I'm calling you out, Roxy Andrews. If you know, you know. So
Oh,
yeah, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for anybody. I'm ready for Roxy. I'm ready for Sasha. I'm ready for Nymphia. I'm
Oh
whoever y'all
my,
want to throw at me. I am ready. I've been ready. I was born ready.
okay, Miss Man,
Need to
what?
see
A lot of
this.
things
I need
change
to
when
see this. You
Drag Race comes
talking
in.
cash shit. I need to see it.
Okay, Sasha Colby, if you are listening,
Sasha
Roxy
Colby,
Andrews.
Sasha Velour. I mean, whoever y'all want to put in front of me, Lana Jarrett, I see you. I love you. I was so here for everything you did last week, and I know you can't beat me, but I very much celebrate you. Yeah,
The gauntlet has been thrown.
You all have
whoever wants
seven
to show
days to
up.
respond.
So that's why Drag Race matters to me, but this is also why I actually feel like it's a really critical piece of the zeitgeist. And I think it's also something that's very much spoke to a broader mainstreaming of queer culture, certainly queer Black culture, right? But queer culture in general, this has meant every bit as much as Will and Grace or Ellen, the show Ellen, the human Ellen, in terms of kind of putting queer people into America's living rooms and reminding a whole lot of people who don't get to interact with us on a daily basis. We're not very regular people, but we are very human people. And, I think part of why so many of the conversations have shifted around queer rights in the last really 25 years have been about TV and have been about
Hmm.
us coming into people's living rooms and just showing up in a very different way. And everybody I know has watched this show at some point and have had something incredibly positive to say about how it shifted something in their head, whether they were queer or not.
Hmm.
And almost every person in my family watches this, including my brother, my very, very heterosexual brother. And that's meant a lot to me because I feel like this has given people who are important to me an entree into part of my life that they haven't either elected or been able to participate in. So yeah, I love it. I love what it's done for the culture, and I love what it means for kids who aren't going to have to grow up like I did and truly wonder, like what it means to be in this body, what it means to
Hmm.
be in a community that I couldn't reach as a young person. Like I think so much has shifted growing up and not having any queer friends, was really, really challenging to me, or understanding that I had friends who were queer and it was something that we weren't really talking about,
That's,
right?
yeah, that's very much like my experience, where it's like I had queer folks in my life, just none of us ever talked about it until after we left for college.
Right, exactly. Exactly. And I think the 15 years between when I was born and when you were born, Paige, I think a huge part of what shifted was that America allowed itself to have that conversation. And I, had so many great moments with both of my parents because of things like playing out on television. They gave us an opportunity to have conversations at home about what the community was, what the identity was, things that they understood that I did not as a child, things that I understood having experiences that they did not know as cishetes. So, it's been a really valuable thing. And we had a lot of conversations about RuPaul growing up because RuPaul was so present. RuPaul's
Hmm.
appearance on the Arsenio Hall show was like a thing that like we saw as a family. And when I tell you it launched me into a different plane of existence because I suddenly understood a career path for myself that I still might take at some point, who knows? That was just out there. I don't know that it even would have occurred to me that I'm supposed to be doing a podcast like this if RuPaul hadn't had the RuPaul show.
It's true. It's
Yeah.
true. It's really true because it's like I think back to, you know, my dad when I was a kid, was not the most, shall we say, homophilic person in the world. And yet I remember as a kid going and seeing the Birdcage in like 1994 with him. Um, I remember going and sitting in the movie theater with my mom, who's been super supportive my whole life, and watching Tu Wong Fu and seeing, RuPaul descend from the rafters in that Confederate flag dress, saying her name was Rachel Tensions. And both of those were just such formative experiences. Like even like something like The Real World, like, the one queer person every year. And then like, the like Steven on like Real World Seattle and his closeted ass. And we all understood what was happening. Um, but it was just really strange because it was like in the 90s, it was like you had all of these touchstones. And there was something in me that was like, okay, this is clearly lighting up some part of me that I don't understand because I'm a kid, but I'm also sort of being told if I explore that, then that's wrong. But as the 90s kept going, it was like, okay, we can start to have this conversation. And I just remember RuPaul always being there, like her talk show, her music, her cameos when she read Joy Behar to fucking filth on The View. Which, everyone got their whole lives.
I would
Um,
like to see that.
it's
Not familiar.
available. It is available. No, essentially Joy Behar was just like, I'm not taking fashion advice from a drag queen. And Rue was like, well, you need to take it from somebody, Joy. So
So where does she think the fashion industry comes from? Girl,
Ding,
Girl,
ding,
you
I
are
don't
ding.
taking
know.
inspiration from the queens, whether you know it or not. Anyway,
Anyway, but even, like through college and like having those first sort of experiences and meeting, like openly queer folks and becoming an openly queer person myself, and sort of going through that second adolescence that so many of us queer folks go through after we come out. Um, what year did Drag Race start? Like 2008, 2009, something like that? I was like a full adult, but it still opened up this sense of just wonder and excitement. And like, there's so much more out there. There's so many people to meet. There's so many experiences to have. And we can all have that. We can all be just like our true authentic selves and love and enjoy our time here on this earth authentically as our true self. And it was just this call to really, especially like there at the beginning of that Obama era, hope and change, all of that, to really live your most authentic life, which sounds really corny. Um, but I think for everyone, it's something that it's a it's truly a gift that I think that we give each other when we allow each other to truly be our full authentic selves. And I think Drag Race really is the gift um, that RuPaul has sort of given to all of us. And of course the whole production team behind the show. But now when you watch it today and you see these kids who are up there who are like, I've been watching Drag Race since I was 5 and felt like I had to permission to pursue this and to entertain and to discover my queerness, my transness, my non-binariness, all of these things. And it's just like, look at this wonderful gift that has been given to the world because, like, we wouldn't have Lydia Collins. So- trying to cut up her dress with a pair of scissors. Were it not for this wonderful gift that has been bestowed upon the world. And I just I just love it. It just put it, even like the worst season of Drag Race is better than the best season of so many things. Um,
I cannot agree with that more strongly. Shout to Lydia Butthole Collins, especially around all of the little sayings that RuPaul
mhm.
has given us over the years. Obviously, if you can't love yourself, how you gonna love someone else, right? Like I think
Amen.
that's a real yes, that's a really useful one. And for me, the one that I just kind of live, if them bitches ain't paying your bills, then you pay them bitches no mind. I think few things are truer than that, especially in a moment like this, where it feels like Black people and queer people and immigrants are under a special kind of microscope. There's
Mhm.
so much commentary on us, what we should be doing, what other people think our place to participate in this society is. And I just frequently am reminded, I do not care. I do not have to care. I will not ever care. I am here to do me as everybody else is, and I am fundamentally uninterested in other people's opinions about what our communities can do, get to do, are doing today, might be doing tomorrow. Like, none of that is interesting to me, even a little bit. And I just love that we have such a pithy phrase to be able to communicate that.
Now, Paige, I know you are relatively new to
Mm-hmm.
Drag Race. So I'm just
Uh-huh.
curious, what are some of your general sort of high level thoughts, feelings?
Yeah, I am a drag race novice. But I am totally clear, unconfused, not at all ignorant about the impact that drag race has had. Even though I have not like watched it on a consistent basis, I think at any point it's been something I've dipped in and out of, or the winners I may hear about, or the especially bright personalities, or maybe the most um notorious antics from the show. There's all kinds of things that get memeified and all kinds of quotables. I definitely engage with that because hi, I'm queer. So it's just been like a cultural icon that's just kind of been in the background for me. I'm excited for it to be less background for me and for me to, know more specifics, maybe go back and watch all the seasons eventually. We will see. But I think for me, like growing up at that point, RuPaul, or at least from like the media that I can actually remember, like RuPaul was just kind of a cultural staple at that point. She was having cameos everywhere. So RuPaul has just been a thing since I was a child. Um, and in my household, we didn't really talk much about queerness. It was among my friends always that it was something talked about because I did theater. So I think even without like drag being openly embraced or talked about, again, it's just like a cultural staple at that point. You have RuPaul and others who may appear in a movie or appear in a show, especially comedically. Um, even though it was something that we did not talk about at home because I was in theater and I was in the arts, you know, we're very present up and through that as gays. So I was very familiar and very comfortable, I think, through always doing theater. Um, I almost saw theater as like a way that like some of us were covertly doing a little of our own drag. That for sure.
For
I
sure.
also I also think about like the Um, I think about media like post Matthew Shepard as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I think that that like change shocked a lot of folks, obviously. And though I don't have like much concrete memory around it, because I would have been like 5 years old when yeah, 5 years old when that tragedy happened. I remember the shift in media and how
Mm-hmm.
people reflected on like more queer inclusion, and not just inclusion but a little bit more care, um because of this tragedy, because of just horrible queer phobic acts being uplifted and like the real consequences um being uplifted. So I think my first like thing I can remember of my most like potent earliest drag memory is probably the first time I watched Tu Wong Fu. Thanks for everything, Julie Newmar.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to my older sister Dika, because she is the one.
I got more legs than a bucket of chicken.
That was my movie. I just like I
Me
am so in
too.
love with that movie. It's still
I
one of my
watch it
favorites.
over and over and over again.
I never get tired of it. Do you want to watch Tu Wong Fu page? Yes. Yes. Every time. Always. Um, but I think that was the first time somebody in my life, especially who was older, was like, here's a part of queer culture. Here is drag. Also just unadulterated, unfiltered drag. And so that was really a moment for me. And I think just getting to embrace that form of expression, that kind of transformation, that kind of queer folks getting to fully take up space, it really did something for me. So I think like from the moment I saw that, I started to pay attention to just like drag culture um more closely in general, and embrace it as something that was for me as a queer kid. I was not out to most of my family, but like my peers, we were out to each other, you know. So I think again, like drag just really was medicine, where a lot of us who were like quietly queer with each other, and maybe getting to have these big moments on stage through the high school theater program every
Mhm.
once in a while.
Mhm.
And learning that, actually, especially once we older and get out of this place, we could take up a whole lot more space. And I think also through drag culture in general, this is all throughout queer culture. This was definitely present in Tu Wong Fu. It was seeing the care that we have for each other as well. Um, and the way we encourage each other to be our authentic selves, even when the world doesn't see us, we get to see each other. And so drag got to be the space where I saw us like really seeing each other. And eventually I got to go to my first little um queer night at the club or whatever, the 18 and up club that was in my neighborhood, that was in my city, and got to see live drag there. And so that's how I've grown into it, as something that is ours, and like y'all said, uniquely Black and queer as
Mhm.
well. um so yeah, I'm excited to get into Drag Race, because like I there's like the history of drag, and then Drag Race seems to have been its own kind of thing
Yeah, it's its
that
own
just
section on the Wikipedia
blew
page.
it out the water.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I love it really resonates when you're talking about taking up space because I feel
Yeah.
like as Black queer folks especially, there are, and I say this all the time, in our family systems, our school systems, even our work systems, if that's a thing, in so many spaces in our lives. It's like, you can be hot, you can be funny, you can be smart, you can be talented, you can be conscientious, empathetic, all of these things. But it's so rare often that you can be all of those things at the same time.
Hmm.
And to just be able to see people who are just living their full, so like the totality of their experience and who they are coming across, having that freedom. And like I was, a big theater kid too. And like those were the times when I felt like I was really just sort of, even though I'm embodying a character, I'm putting my full self out there, like my voice and my body and all of these, like everyone is getting to see and hear the full expression of my humanity. And it's just I think that's why I just love art and art making so much because you get to see people in that element. And I think especially for Black folks and queer folks, um, drag is that like times a million. And it just makes me feel so excited. But I'm looking at the time and we should probably get to it, shouldn't we?
They do it.
Do it. Enough of this preamble. So yes, we decided to start with season 11 because we wanted a season, spoiler alert, where there's a black winner. That was just important to us. And so, I mean, I'm sure so many of you have watched the season, but if you haven't, I highly recommend you go to Paramount Plus and check it out. The whole season is there. We're not going to be covering Untucked because I feel like just me personally, and Lee, I don't know if you agree, but I feel like this was the first season really where Untucked became kind of non-essential viewing. Like I feel like I'm getting the whole story, not just half the story from the first episode. But if you want to watch that for context, we'll probably watch some of it for context as well. Um, but yeah, so I guess season 11, episode 1, what you packing? Let's go. Let's do it. So we open on an empty workroom, and then we hear the dulcet tones of season 10, first boot icon, just gay drag icon, returning for another go. The delightful Miss Vanessa Vanjie Mateo, wearing a short red skirt, red stockings, uh, some unfortunate body glitter, which she will be sporting all season. But how did you all feel about seeing Miss Vanjie again for some folks? It
Vanjie's a national treasure. She's one of
really
my
is.
all-time favorite things. I
Absolutely.
I find her endlessly interesting. And maybe I should also just add for people listening that spoilers will abound
Oh,
because
abound.
this is also a 6-year-old season. But one of the other things I wanted to say really briefly about why we picked this season, because there are a lot of Black winners. Of the group of contestants, 9 of the girls from this season went on to do other things within the franchise, whether competing in All Stars or one of the international competitions, or in the case of Brooklyn Heights, hosting 2 other franchises. And Vanjie and Silky and maybe somebody else end up with spinoffs. And you should just get into Vanjie. Like she's absolutely a fascinating creature. And I think the very best thing that they did was bringing her back for this season because she's amazing. Period.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. I have a friend at my gym, And he came up to me a couple of weeks ago and he was like, "Do you watch Drag Race?" And I was like, "Of course."
Do I?
And he was like, I had never really gotten into it, but, I ended up, with some friends watching the beginning of season 10, and I'm obsessed. And I was just like, "Oh, the beginning of season 10. So Miss Van," and of course we're both Miss Vanjie across the gym. And it's just like the cultural impact that she's having
Yeah.
6 years later. I mean, when that happened, it was like a bomb dropped in gay communities around the world.
Listen, if you didn't know about Drag Race by then, like you definitely knew after because I could not go anywhere without hearing Miss Vanjie. Even I know that. You don't have to watch none of Drag Race, but you know that. You know Miss Vanjie.
My favorite artifact from the time was a video. I guess it wasn't TikTok because that didn't really exist then. So maybe it was Instagram. But it was like some dude walking around in Target with his cart, just like, how do you find gays in the wild? And he just was like, "Miss Vanjie," and then you hear from like 3 aisles over, "Miss Vanjie."
The other thing that you can't deny about Vanjie is that season 10 lip sync that she loses to Calorie Kardashian Williams and gets sent home. It is truly one of the worst lip syncs
It was not
ever.
good.
Ever. That death drop at the end where the shoe just flies off to the side,
Getting
it
caught
is.
in the tool.
And
Like,
the wears her waist and wearing my grandmother's vase out there with those fake flowers. Like it was all so horrible. And then she comes back in season 11 and she's extraordinary.
and
Like
slays.
she doesn't miss, right? And that's why it was so good because it's the best kind of redemption. It may be my favorite redemption arc of any queen ever because she comes back and it's everything that you want it to be. And she still has that same amazing personality where she doesn't take herself too seriously. Because I
Mhm.
will tell you this, few things are more painful than sitting through a season of a drag queen that's taking herself way too seriously
Miss
when you need to
Fame,
say, Madam.
Alexis Michelle,
Did you say Brooklyn Heights?
and Brooklyn
Because
Heights.
that I have grown to love Brooke, but on this season, I'm like, ma'am, I need this is not that. I need you to bring this down because you are no fun.
Well, next up, we have got Nina West walking in a big sort of Broadway funny girl type 1940s Broadway yellow dress, big hat to the side. Nina's claim to fame is that she was Entertainer of the Year once a few years ago, and her moving dress that was copied by Sia.
Mhm.
I don't have a lot to say about Miss Nina. I I I had forgotten in these first two episodes just sort of how much of a mess her runway package
Yeah.
was for somebody with
Mhm.
such bona fides
Mhm.
who other people in the competition are calling a legend of the community. Um, but I don't I that's all I have to say about that.
She's deeply polarizing. I think some of it's for her drag. I think some of it's for some of her political views. And then there are a lot of people who
Okay.
just like randomly hate her. And I think some of it's because, a lot of people actively hate any representation of musical theater outside of the theater. And I
Yes,
can, as a person who's worked in theater for a while, like I have tracked those kinds of things. And there have been stronger theater queens on the
much.
show for sure. Um, I don't have anything against Nina, one way or the other. She doesn't do anything for me. She doesn't not do anything for me. But I'm not gonna pretend like many of her runways didn't give me profound agita.
Look, here's the thing about me. I I'm just gonna just be very honest. For me, the fashions are, if not the most important. Like if you can't dress yourself, what are we doing here?
And that one, the
Looking at you, Soju,
Girl,
directly at you,
girl.
Jesus.
and was warned that, hey, this may be a mess. I was like, Miss Vanjie took her notes. She
Hmm.
applied her notes, and
Hmm.
she even tried to
Hmm.
help somebody else with
Hmm.
her notes.
And talk about problematic,
Yeah,
Miss Soju.
there's
So,
definitely some Soju stuff floating around on the web. And she's retired from
Oh,
drag,
what
right?
happened?
I don't think she ever responded to the controversy, but she's definitely retired. But if there was a real crime there, Kim Chi was another one of those queens. She never missed. Her
never,
looks were
not once.
impeccable, no matter what. So to be playing in her box and to come out with the garment that Soju came out, no ma'am,
No,
no
no, ma'am.
ma'am.
So third, we meet Sugar Cane
I liked her.
in a glitter bodysuit, a very unfortunate lavender wig. I was not here for that. Only been doing drag for a year and a half and made it
Mhm.
on to Drag Race. So good for you, Miss Sugar Cane. Fourth, Plastique Tiara.
Oh, before we move on from
Oh
sugarcane,
yes,
one thing
okay.
I do kind of feel like always should get acknowledged. We don't get a lot of Indigenous queens
Yes,
on
you're
this show.
correct.
More are on the Canadian franchise, and she's one of the few. And I always really enjoyed her. And she gets sent home earlier than I would have preferred. But the other thing about her, she's very clever. Like she's
Yes.
one of the ones that I actually really enjoy listening to because she has content to her commentary.
Shout out to Sugar Cane.
Shout out to Sugarcane.
So next we have, I mean, Plastic Tiara.
One of the
Like,
greats, in my opinion.
I mean, the most followed drag queen now on Instagram, are almost there. It's about to overtake Trixie Mattel if she has not already. Stunting.
Hmm.
Only
Beautiful
just
young
turned
lady.
21 at the time. Can you
Hmm.
believe? So much talent.
So much talent.
She's so talented. Oh my
When
gosh.
she comes back for All Stars 9, and this is like, because I agree with you, Rocky. Like what is on the runway, like to me, it's second only to the lip syncing.
Hmm.
Um, the runway package that she puts out when she comes back for All Stars, it there's never been anything like it. Like
Mind-boggling.
it was stupid couture, a a, a disgusting display of good taste. Shout to Tiara, Plastique Tiara. Also part of my very favorite drag family of the franchise. So,
Who else is in her family?
the House of Edwards.
Oh, I didn't. I guess I must have known that. Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Fifth out of the gate, we have Mercedes Iman Diamond Opulence in
Opulence.
her white dress and diamond and furs, ululating, coming from Minneapolis by way
Yes.
of Mombasa, Kenya.
Hometown heroine.
Yes. And Mercedes, if you want to come on the show, we would love to have you.
Be lovely to see you again. I met her once at a meet and greet on one of
Did
my
you?
like nights out and about in downtown Minneapolis. We took some pictures together. She's really sweet, really funny, and she read me because I was standing in a place where she wasn't in her light for the
Oh.
photo. I was in mine though, but you know.
Well, I'm surprised you didn't challenge her to a lip sync.
Is that a
Never too
challenge?
late.
Is that a we can
Actually,
compete
after
over
seeing
it
what
right
she
now?
did with Work Bitch on that second episode, I need to stretch first.
I mean, we'll get there. We'll
We'll
get
get there.
there. Next into the workroom, Scarlet Envy wearing a bodysuit with Botticelli's Birth of Venus on it and sort of a Wonder Woman-y sort of metallic headband of sorts. Sure.
Yeah.
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 You know. Next up, Honey Davenport and okay, what is this wig, honey? But this flat wig, but wearing a bee dress, black and yellow with honeycomb details on it.
I will say, because she's not on very long
No.
on this season. So she was at the Monster, which was one of my favorite gay bars in New York for a very long time. She hosted a show there for a number of years, and I loved her show. I think it was called Manster. She's really funny. Really enjoyed her, and it always made me sad that she didn't last longer on
Yeah,
here.
I mean, because they keep saying, she's a legend in New York.
Hmm.
And one of the legendary Davenport family, of
Hmm.
which we have three
Three this
this
season.
season. And so, I think there's an old adage that, there are some drag queens who are very, very, very good at drag, but not
Hmm.
very good at drag race.
Yes,
And I
because those are
think,
different things.
and I
Yeah,
think perhaps Honey falls into that category because,
yeah,
until she goes, she doesn't really make that much of an impact, and she's
yeah,
not really dressing for the camera.
yeah.
Um,
Touche, touche.
I'm just saying. So, but I'm sure she has earned her status in the community. And someday I would love to see her do what she does best, but I don't think it's Drag Race. Just gonna say. So sorry. So sorry. Next up, one of my favorite underrated queens of all time, the Akira Chanel Davenport,
Yes.
serving you real Texas housewife, Nene
Hmm.
Leakes,
Usher.
honey.
Hmm.
Booty, 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 curves and
Hmm.
swerves. Yes, Miss Akira, love her so much.
Yeah, I do too. Her wig game was particularly strong. They never talk enough about wigs on the show, frankly,
Hmm.
and her wig game was always very strong.
Yes.
There could be a whole segment just talking about the wigs, honestly.
Yes.
Hmm.
Like
Yes.
we may need to make that a thing. Who had the best
I'm here
wig?
for it.
Whose was
I'm here for
laid?
it
Yeah.
because I have so many. I actually took notes, y'all. I have 4 pages of notes. And when we get to Kahana's wig in
Woo!
the
Second
second
episode.
runway,
Woo!
I think I have a half page about that wig alone because that Party City bullshit
Yeah.
made me upset. Why are you
Coco
wasting
would
everyone's
not have
time?
been okay with that
No,
at all.
at all.
At all.
And you would have thought that Coco would have inspected all of the wigs, all of the outfits, all of the shoes.
Well, she heard about it when she got home. Like that, and she did.
But like help your daughter before she leaves.
But you know what I will say, not to get us even further off, she also has a wonderful redemption when she comes back for All
That is
Stars.
true.
She has
That
pulled
is
it all
true.
the way
All the
together.
way together.
And I had a friend who saw her in the Vegas, RuPaul has a Vegas show, and Kahana was one of them in it. And apparently she was absolutely spellbinding. So this whole hip hop showgirl thing, it's not just a funny line, it's a very real thing, and you do get to see it in All Stars
Yes, and
9.
yes, and I will chalk it up to youth.
Yes. Yeah, because she's a
Yes.
baby on the
Yeah,
season.
she's a baby. She's a baby. Next up, we have the legendary Yvie Oddly. She is preceded
Yes.
into the room by a toy car, remote control car, a little feather boa. She comes out in her sparkly stone snake dress, and I live.
Yeah, she looked amazing. Evie's one of my all-time favorites. I love her.
Yes,
I
and we
love the
will.
weird queens. I
Yes.
Yes.
really do.
And she is up there with the weirdest of the weird.
Yes. Can't wait for more.
Oh boy, it is time for some main character energy because here comes the Dr. Reverend Silky Nutmeg Ganache. Wearing a little
Woo!
bra top, a little crop jacket, some mom capris. Talking about she's got the big silk with the good old milk, her cookies. Loud, in charge.
In charge.
Oh my goodness. So what are
In
y'all first impressions of
charge.
Miss Silky?
My first impression was that I'm gonna like her. I'm gonna like her.
Mhm.
I as we go on, I'm like, I don't know as I'm entertained and but also girl, like she was she was doing a
Yeah,
lot. She was doing a lot.
So
doing the
much.
most.
The absolute most.
The very, very most. As the episode progressed, I was like, where are you finding time to even make the drag happen with all this carrying on?
Well,
I mean, and that's always the question with her, right?
and I
Shouldn't you
think
be at
as
your
the
workstation, girl? What's going on?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think as we will see, moving forward as sort of Silky's personality and point of view get shaded in a bit more, she's a complicated
She's
character.
so complicated. She's so
And,
complicated.
I mean, you mentioned Nina's politics. And to Nina's credit, she did recently, or I guess a while ago, maybe a few months ago, come out and say all of those things that were attributed to me were not true. I don't know if Silky feels the same
Yeah.
because I'm not sure if she's joking when she said certain things or
So we should say it.
yes,
Silky
Yeah, I'm
she
like, what are we
identifies
identifies
as
as
as a
a
Republican in
a
one episode
Republican.
and
Yes.
gives an explanation of why that includes saying, I've never voted for a Republican. And it's complicated because this is 2019, so Trump is certainly in the White House, right?
Yes.
And it gets even more complicated now because we kind of never, Silky is hard to read, so it's always hard to know if she's joking. The reasons she gave, they were related to gerrymandering, if I'm remembering correctly.
Hmm.
I'm like, but the Republicans are usually the ones playing that game. So like I
And
couldn't
certainly will
follow
be in
it.
2020.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I'm very curious to know like sort of where it stands, but we all know that like, many of these some of these girls are peers themselves. Some of these girls are very much committed to like their drag personas. So you
Hmm.
can never really know who's out here just being themselves and who's out here as Katya, clearly playing a character and consistently playing it for 12 years, right? So I don't know, but I will also say this. I love how Silky takes up as much space as she does because to me,
Yes,
that's important for all the reasons we just talked
exactly
about.
what we talked about before.
We've also talked about on this show the bigger girls not getting their due, and Silky never, like, there is no such thing as pretending that she's not there. And when she's on and doing the things that she does really well, like the comedy stuff, she had very little competition. And then there's that run on All Stars 7,
6?
I think, where she does the beats 5 girls in a row in a lip sync battle that was stupidly impressive.
Legendary.
Yeah, I mean, the only person I've ever
Legendary.
seen perform like that in a lip sync gauntlet is me. So I was blown away. I have to be honest. So I have a lot of respect for Silky, but I also don't know what to do with her politics. But it was funny to hear the other girls talking about her as if she's going to be gone soon. I'm like, no,
Hmm.
she's she's here, y'all.
Girl.
And that's the thing. I'm just like, you're clearly skilled if you're here, you know,
Mhm.
maybe the personality is talking louder than the skill at some points, but you're here. So like I'm excited to see what she does.
And so is Rue,
Hmm.
which is the other part of it. I'm like, y'all need to pay attention. Rue likes some of these girls, and these are
Hmm.
usually girls you see in the
Yeah.
finals.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, next up into the room, the Queen of the North, Miss Brooklyn Heights, in her sparkly Mountie uniform. She is a former ballet dancer, 2014 Miss Continental, which is, I think, probably before Drag Race, was the premier crown that you could
Mhm.
win in the drag world. So very big deal that she won that crown. Um, what do y'all think of Brooke, who goes on to have a very long and illustrious career in the Drag Race universe? I mean, I think you said a little bit before, Lee, about how stiff you find her.
Yeah, so on this one, and I kind of attribute it to some of the people who come on this show, especially those who have performing backgrounds. I think sometimes it's really hard to get out of your
Hmm.
performing background when you are still performing, even if it's in a different context. And ballet is deeply regimented, as we know.
Hmm.
And, Brooke had a real ballet career. She danced with the Cape Town Ballet, but she also danced with the Trocadero Ballet, which is the one where they have the men on point,
Hmm.
which is a highly comedic ballet. So like I was confused when she was on this season because she wasn't funny. And I was like, I've seen the Trocadero Ballet. I actually really think it's a very funny way of sending up all of these dance conventions. But Brooke was like a laser. Like she was laser
Hmm.
precise in how she approached the show. And it takes her right to the finale. She doesn't win. She loses to Yvie, who I feel like is the opposite. She's completely in the moment at all times,
Hmm.
right? And she's also lovable. Whereas to me, Brooke was really, really hard to like in this season. I will save the other piece about the relationship to a different point. But I will say now that get to watch Brooke as the host of Canada's Drag Race, I've completely
She's
fallen in love with
funny
her.
there.
She's funny, she's relaxed because she's not in competition mode, right?
Hmm.
So she's funny, she's relaxed. The fashions are typically off the charts. I don't always love the
Some of them are a
wigs,
little
but
questionable, but
some of them are a little questionable. But the ones that work really work.
they no, and she's beautiful. She's
She's
absolutely
beautiful.
gorgeous.
She moves so well. Like I love seeing her entrances and exits on the runway because she's completely in command of her body. Um, but yeah, she's cold as ice on the show.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. I think Brooke is a really interesting character this season because I do agree that like she doesn't show a lot of warmth, but there are moments when the facade does crack
Yeah.
and you do get to see some of the when like spoiler alert, after Snatch Game and she absolutely fucks it up.
As Celine Dion of one of the most imitable people
I
around.
could do Celine
I could
Dion.
do Celine Dion, right?
And you can tell when she goes out on that runway that she is scared for her life, and she turns it the fuck out in a way that she doesn't for the rest of the season. And I think in some of the moments where she's with Vanjie, I think you get to see some of that warmth. And those are the moments where you're like, oh, and you get to see like a little bit of this person that we see on Canada's Drag Race now.
Yeah,
But other than that, it's just sort of like this Terminator, like,
yeah.
just weaponized competence when it comes to the art of drag. And like part of that is cool because it's like, okay, she's turning looks, she's,
She's very good
Yeah, she's great. There's a reason why she makes the finals, but it doesn't leave you with like, and I think, again, after that Snatch game, one of the few double Shantays that I think was
Mhm.
actually deserved.
Completely warranted. Yeah.
Completely warranted. Both of those queens turned it the fuck out.
Evie Oddly is the other
Absolutely.
person in that lip sync.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like I will still go back and watch that lip sync just on my own time.
Yeah.
Just cause. So, I think Brooke is an interesting character. I'm interested to revisit her journey this season because maybe there are some things that I'm not remembering exactly the way that they were because I don't think I've watched this season again since it aired. Um, but yeah, I'm excited to continue the journey. But we should continue the journey of the workroom entrances. I don't know if we're gonna get to episode two, just by the way. Um, Ariel Versace, big frozen looking gown, like Frozen the movie,
Mhm.
uh, rainbow wig or rainbow tips rather. Um, I wasn't living, but your mileage may vary.
Give much of
Yeah.
an impression.
I mean, it was a very sort of shapeless gown, big
Yeah,
and bulky and kind of ugly.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, you're just entering the workroom. We will see what happens during a challenge. Okay, okay, okay.
Next up, the legendary Raja Davenport O'Hara in her newspaper gown. Poor thing, her earrings are falling off all over the place. Was not living for that, but living for her.
Yeah, I love Raja. Raja is another one with a great arc across her three appearances
Hmm.
this season. One of the
She's in
All-Stars and
one of the
Canada
all.
versus the World,
Hmm.
#2, which she wins.
I think it's number one.
Is that the one she wins? You're
I think
right.
so.
She
I think
does.
so.
Right. Canada loses its own first competition. So yeah, Canadian drag. We'll talk about that on another day.
Oh my goodness, I would love to do a season of Canada Drag Race.
And I know what season we
Please.
should do too,
Ooh,
child.
which one?
It's the one where the queen from is she Bayesian? Do you know
Oh,
what I'm talking? Yeah, I
Jada Shada
actually
Hudson.
rather enjoyed that season, messy as it was.
It was messy, quite messy. Okay. Next into the Rook Room, Kahana Montrese, as we already discussed her a bit. Little ugly, sparkly two-piece
When bad drag
situation.
happens to pretty girls.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. And last but not, well, last but certainly least, I'm so sorry. Soju, no, giving Karate Elvis, no.
The the wig, the wig was unhappy. The funny thing is, I'd almost completely forgotten Soju existed outside of the Lizzo video. But
What Lizzo video?
Juice.
Oh,
There are a bunch of drag queens
Oh,
in that, and
why
Soju is
would
one
you
of them.
pick Soju?
It was so if I'm doing my Lizzo timeline correctly, it that song, the video for that probably coincides with the season, which is also why I think so many of the girls from the season are in that video.
Oh, okay. I guess
And
that makes
Lizzo
sense.
may even be a guest judge this season. I can't remember. Like it's some of this does run together in my head. Sojo is funnier in boy drag than in drag. And to me, that is usually the kiss of death. Like if you are getting your best moments out of drag, then the show is probably not for you. And I guess I have to leave it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
now they were talking about her background, and it sounded like it was giving YouTube.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. She used to
Internet
do a
drag. Okay.
review of the show, and it actually was pretty funny. Um,
I never watched it.
I did because I was kind of curious about what she did because it was so clear that she wasn't this kind of drag performer. So like after she got eliminated, I immediately was like, well, let me see what she actually does. And I can I can see how she got to the show from where she was, but it becomes a bigger issue with the season going forward with more of the social media girls ending up on the show. And they do not have a lot of the live in front of an audience experience. And a couple of them, I mean, poor Sugar and Spice, like they're full deer in headlights a couple seasons later. So it actually does become an issue
It
because
does.
most of them are gone within an episode or two because they just can't
Well,
do
Spice
this.
lasted a shockingly long
A
time.
shockingly long time, and I think some of that was because Nymphia's choice not to take her out in that first lip sync
Hmm.
when she could have. But yeah, they that was a really weird one
Yeah,
for me.
very
Yeah.
weird, very weird, very weird.
I
To
wonder if y'all notice a point like just in the franchise at which there becomes more and more of these like internet influencer, not a
Yep.
performer type of queen. Like, is Soju kind of one of the first that we see, or are we seeing that even earlier? Because from what I've heard, even just Drag Race, the show being a thing, has produced a
Mhm.
lot
mhm.
more drag
Oh,
queens.
absolutely.
Well,
And
I think this season is probably one of the first times we're really sort of hearing people talk about it because you hear about
okay.
Soju.
Yeah.
Soju talks about her YouTube show. Ariel's talking about like her 85,000 followers on Instagram, which, okay, girl. Um, I get, say it, Lee. Say it. Say it.
I wasn't even thinking anything. I mean, it's really not that many followers.
That you have more followers by several orders of magnitude. Is that what you were
Is
going to
that
say?
true? Do I? You wait until Arts Administrators race comes out. I'm going to be on that first season talking about my followers.
But I think it really kind of explodes after the pandemic
Yeah.
because we're all sitting at home, especially like Sugar and Spice got like really, really big on TikTok and got
Hmm.
like hundreds of thousands of followers on TikTok. And then all of a sudden they're on the show. And like they have never done drag outside of their bedroom before, literally.
I felt like we started to get more of it when the show moved to VH1 from Logo because I felt like the audience, it got broader. And then
Mhm,
the show moves to MTV like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and the audience gets younger. And now you hear way too much about it. Like they
mhm.
and like there is like a whole piece of the show, like social media voting actually factors into the finale in a couple of instances. So it really does become a very big part of the show and the show, how it mainstreams itself has a lot to do with the social media and other career aspects of uh, some of these folks who are on it.
Well, I'm just looking at the time, and we're going to need to sort of blaze through the rest of this episode. But I think it becomes very, very clear that this season is going to be probably one of the most self-referential seasons
Yeah.
that we've had in a while. So it'll give us an opportunity to talk about, some of the other queens, some of the iconic moments that have happened. We have a mini challenge where they have to pose with queens who have been on the show. So we get to see Raja and Jasmine Masters and Manila and Ginger Minge and Pheromone on Gina, Kylie Sonique Love, Miss Pork Chop, Eureka, ugh. Raven, Delta Work, Derek Barry, Kimora Black, Mariah Balenciaga, woo, and Adore. The maxi challenge is they are all given the task to design challenge. They need to create a look that is based on looks that are provided from, quote unquote, provided from former drag queens. So they kind of have to make something that embodies their personal style using materials that might be associated with other queens that have previously been on the show. And I guess we can talk about the runways really quick. Oh, and Miley Cyrus shows up in the workroom at one point, and Silky puts her on their back and is running. What are your feelings about Miley Cyrus? I'm just curious.
I haven't any.
All right.
Well, I was like, this is a choice that makes sense because Miley was in drag pretending to be black for a minute. So
The bangers era was drag.
that was drag.
Yes.
So I was like, this is sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Hannah
Yeah.
Montana,
Full drag.
Full drag.
Yeah.
fully.
Full drag.
And you know what? I take that back. My childhood drag experience was Hannah Montana. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, then we should get to the lip sync because I'm curious what you think about that. So, the runway, there are some bops. There are definitely some chops. In the top, we have Plastique, Brooklyn Heights, Akira, and her fabulous wig made of 5 wigs, and Miss Vanjie. Exceptional. Vanjie, again, with the body glitter, which I know is going to continue. But was that a trend in 2019?
I mean, I feel like body glitter and drag is like it's a thing that I don't know how easily we get away from at any
Yes, but it's just
point.
oh, it's a lot.
It goes really wrong in the second episode.
Yes, it does. In the bottom, we have Mercedes Iman Diamond and her blue camo patterned bodysuit. Nina looking a hot mess. Kahana in a bra and panties and a little red sash with a sleeve. And Soju in her ancestors must have been just screaming.
They really do not put that on us. Don't put that on us.
Don't call that a hanbok.
Don't.
In a pair of flats, talking about she had a cyst that I forgot about
I
this,
had forgotten
that
that little story.
exploded on a plane and was oozing while she was standing there. Miss Ma'am, can we not?
Yeah, but the mildly funny Ross Matthews was right about one thing. That was the most interesting thing that came out of Soju's mouth. And the minute she started talking about that, that was when I was like, oh, I am going to go and watch her YouTube show because she's nuts. And let me see what she's over here talking about.
Yeah, I saw the tepidly funny Ross Matthews once. At a restaurant in Palm Springs. He was sitting right by the front door, which I'm not going to speculate. Maybe that's where they sat him. But it was perfect for when a young man walked into the restaurant and started screaming because he was seeing the tepidly funny Ross Matthews.
Can I just say really briefly, T.S. Madison in later seasons is such a great addition
Yes.
to the judging panel. If she and Law Roach, who I only intermittently enjoy because sometimes Law is just mean, if they replaced Frickin' Frack as the other 2 judges, and it's Rue and Michelle and T.S. Madison and Law Roach, you won't hear a peep of a complaint out of me. That is a judging panel I can be completely down with. So I'm just saying it because Rue, I know you sometimes listen, and I would love it if you could actuate that request.
Because,
Thank you.
it makes such a difference when you have a judging panel that is knowledgeable and funny. Like you look at
Yeah,
UK and
yeah,
Graham and
yeah.
Alan, and it's so entertaining.
So
And
entertaining.
because they are like funny and smart, like I feel like the critiques are like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
I can trust
yeah,
this.
yeah. Same with the Philippine franchise. If you watch that,
Yes,
like everybody on the
absolutely.
panel
You
knows
know what
about
we should
drag.
cover
Which
is
is
season 3 of the Philippines.
done. It's
I'm
one of my
That
interested.
all-time
is
favorites.
that's one
Done.
of the best
Yeah,
things I've ever watched in
yeah.
my entire life.
Period.
So, period, point blank.
Yeah.
But finally, we have the lip sync. It's Soju versus Kahana doing Best of Both Worlds by Hannah Montana. Kahana eats her right on
Yeah.
up.
Uh,
Left no
No
crumbs.
crumbs.
no crumbs.
Devoured her. Oh.
No
And so
crumbs.
how did your inner child feel watching them do this song?
Well, my inner queer child
Mm,
just felt a full circle of completion. So I will say that it brought me quite a bit of joy. Um also again, Soju, I don't the dress was so in the way, and you could also, by how difficult it was to move around, you could tell it was
mhm,
poorly constructed as well. It's not just
Mhm.
that it was shapeless and ugly, it was poorly constructed that she could not move in it without the theme seeming like it was breaking down in front of our eyes.
Yes.
And if if I knew, if I was in her position and I knew how that dress was constructed, I the lore of Hannah Montana is so rich. The you have a lot of lyrical content to work with. I would have stood and maybe in one place, walked just a few steps this way, just a few steps that way, and emphasized the storytelling that the song is doing. But she was clearly not a performer, and so she couldn't even do that.
And I'm
And so
like,
she got 8 right on up. I was like,
yeah.
Hannah
mhm.
Montana's is drag, is dramatic. Even if you're wearing a terrible dress that you are just 2 seconds away from tripping over and falling on your face with, you could have did something to turn it
Okay.
out still.
I mean, clearly that dress wasn't, I mean, it was made up of hopes and dreams and scotch tape. So you would have thought that she could have constructed some sort of tearaway so that she could be wearing like a bodysuit or
That
something
too.
underneath
Mhm.
and been able to move.
I
Not that,
expected that.
Yeah.
I
But that
mean,
was that lack of experience, right? Like she just
Yeah.
she had no idea. And she also seemed to be unprepared for the fact that she'd be lip syncing. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
which is
Did she know the
delusional.
words?
she seemed
She
like
did not know the words.
she knew a couple, two, three of them.
She knew like
Hmm.
the big notes,
Yeah,
but everything in between.
literally all of it.
I'm like, what is her age? Girl, you seem young. You seem like you was in the Hannah Montana prime years right with me. You should know this.
Absolutamente.
I mean, if it were me, I would have to spend some time with it and learn those words. But yes, if you were in that demographic, it seems like the type of thing that, should be uh second nature, I suppose.
Mhm, mhm.
But that's how we end episode 1 with Kahana Montrese, uh, uh, Shantae, Soju sashaying away, saying she missed all her sisters on the mirror message. And we will I guess adjourn for now. And we'll come back with episode 2, Good God Girl Get Out, which we will have lots to say, I'm sure, about
Yes.
next time. But
Buckets.
um I I feel I'm just gonna say I feel like this is a rousing success and I'm having so much fun.
Oh, absolutely. The only thing I was thinking is like, how are we going to figure out if we can do more than one episode
We will,
per
we will.
episode?
We'll just have to figure out how to talk less. But we
They're
have
going to have
lots
to
of
figure
things
out
to
how to get
say.
me to say less, which is why I think it's something that we're going to have to think through because I struggle with that.
Well, maybe this will just have to be a 2 or 3 hour podcast.
Fine with me.
I'm just saying, I have things to say. But we'll leave it there for now, and we will be right back with a really quick Pure Black Joy right after this. And we are back with Pure Black Joy. This is the segment where we talk about all the Black people, places, music, art, food, culture that's making us happy this week. And Lee, I think you're on this week.
I am. So my pure black joy this week comes directly from a new friend in the head, Honey Davenport, who announced just yesterday that she is releasing a line of pantyhose called
Oh.
Honey's Hose, which is almost got through the whole sentence. Honey's Hose, which aims to make artists, especially artists of color, feel seen and celebrated, right? So we're thinking of colors, sizes, fabrics that are meant for any number of body types, and also, as we'll be talking about for the next couple of episodes, drag queens go through a lot of hose. They are frequently wearing multiple pair, so there's also some thinking around this piece of it. If you're interested in getting you some hose, then just go to Honey's official Instagram, Honey Davenport Official, or Honey's Hose Official to see more about pre-orders and updates around release time. Super excited if I do end up challenging some of y'all to a lip sync smackdown, then make sure you get you some of these Honey Hose.
Okay. Well, and honey, if you are listening, I hope that makes up for some of the shady things I said earlier. Hopefully, we get you some coins so you're not too mad. Love, it's all love.
It's
It's
all
all love.
love.
It's all love. Even the tepidly funny Ross Matthews. But I think that's going to do it for us this week. We will be back with a regular show in 2 weeks, and we'll do another episode or two of Drag Race, the episode after that. And if you want to stay abreast of all of our comings and goings, please follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky at Score Pod. Please tell all your friends about us. Subscribe. Leave us a review wherever you're listening. 5 stars, please. Please. And other than
At
that,
least.
as always, thank you for letting us come in your ear holes. Before we, yeah, no, it's staying. It's staying. But before we go, any words of wisdom for the people?
Yes, support local drag.
Yes.
Tip your drag artists. It
Yes.
actually does matter. And three, if you really think you have something to show, you know where to find me.
Ooh. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Okay. Word to the wise. Come see about Lee.
Waiting for challengers to step up. Okay.
Step up to the streets. Okay, well, that's gonna do it. We will see you in 2 weeks. And bye, America. We love you. Bye, Philippines.